Hi guys and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be analyzing the Sp500, the Nasdaq 100 and Dow Jones 30. We see something new that is worthy to be analyzed. Before doing so, please subscribe to our channel if you want us to keep releasing technical analysis and price predictions for free. Also like our videos and leave a comment. Let's start our analysis with a daily chart for the Sp500. As you can see here, we have an ascending triangle, and with a long black candle, the Sp500 is broken below the ascending oblique support. What we see here is now that after having hit perfectly the lower band, we have experienced a rebound. So where we want to move over the next days, definitely this area, 3,500 points, is an area which will be hit over the next days, and from there I do believe we are going actually down. What we might see is a reversal pinball after hitting this area. Okay, but most importantly, we see a spike in volumes in association with a long black candle. In other words, I do believe that actually this movement seems to have the strengthness or enough strength to move or to keep moving downwards. But the most important thing that we see here, that the chart is telling us, and actually is screaming to us, is that the two triangular moving average which forms the envelope actually are now for the very first time oriented downwards. As you can see here, this channel actually was oriented upwards. Even in this case, as you can see here, the two envelopes, the lower and the upper band, were moving horizontally. Why? For the first time here we see that the derivative, okay, is negative, is below the zero, which is an extremely bearish signal, okay, for the index, for the Sp500 index. The last time that actually happened was here, when we have seen, okay, both the two moving averages oriented downward. So this is an extremely bearish signal. So let's not be fooled out by the idea that we see here the Sp500 moving, okay, moving actually in an uptrend, okay, because right now, for the very first time since March 2020, we see that the two envelopes are now moving downwards. Okay, now if we switch to the weekly chart, we will have a better idea of what we might see over the next months. Here it's more clear, okay, while the two envelopes are oriented upwards, okay, we see that very first time a long black candle coming inside, okay, from having actually broken above the upper band, which is another bearish signal. When that happened in two cases before. Okay, we see here a long black candle coming inside after having broken above the upper band, and then we have experienced a small retrace. Okay, in this case happened actually over February 2020, so the price broke above the upper band to then break in a vertical way down till 2,200 points. So we should be expecting the same or not. And as you can see here, even in this case, okay, the upper band was oriented upwards. So let's not be fooled out by the idea that the two bands are in this case up. And the reason is because the weekly chart is more lagging when compared with actually the daily chart. So what we might see here, if it's a break below 3,000 points. That is not going to happen really soon, because as I've been saying before, we might see 3,500 points being hit over the next days, but then I do believe we are going to retest the 3,000 area. That it can happen in 2021, okay, so with the new year. Now let's move on and let's analyze the Nasdaq 100. Nasdaq 100 is a similar chart. Here we have a weekly view. Even in this case, actually after having broken above the upper band, for the very first time we see a candle breaking below the upper band. And now, as you can see here, we have two long white candles going to retest the middle area of this engulfing bearish pattern, and I do believe we're going to hit and to retest the 12,000 area, okay? But again, in this case, we will be again above the upper band. So what is happening right now is that the bearish forces are starting to test, okay, what the retail traders are going to do over the next weeks. So I will not follow this movement up, since I do believe it can be really tricky, and actually is a trick for the small and for the retail traders to let them think that actually the American market can keep going up, okay? So this can be a very tricky situation, very tricky scenario, again, for the very first time, and this is the most important thing that we have to keep an attention on. For the very first time, we see a long black candle breaking below the upper band and then coming inside, and we are now inside the envelope, okay? When this happens 8 or 9 times out of 10, then what we see is a strong movement downward. So now, again, I do believe we might test again the 12,000 point area is a round number, but from there I do believe we are going down. Let's move on and let's analyze the Dow Jones 30. As you know, as I've been stating several times, the Dow Jones 30 has the actually the worst chart if compared with the SP500, with the Nasdaq 100. Actually, in other words, Dow Jones 30 has a relative strength lower than the previous two assets, okay, taken into examination. So what we see here, again, very important, we see that two envelopes are oriented downwards, very first time, even in this case, since March 2020. Again, in this case, we saw that actually the lower band was moving horizontally, but for the first time we see here that actually the derivative is negative, okay? So right now, under a mere technical point of view, every movement up, okay, can be a great occasion, a great point for us to trigger a short. But before triggering a short, I would wait for a very strong bearish pattern. So I want to see some reversal pinball here, or some increase in terms of amplitude, okay? So we need to see something like that, okay, which means a -3, -4% at the closure, okay, at the end of the day, because until we will see -2, -2.5, this cannot be considered a great sell signal, okay? So we need actually a very long bearish candle breaking below, for the Dow Jones, below the 26,000 points, okay? So we need actually a long black candle breaking below the lower band, actually something that like in this case, okay? So when we will see something like this, then we know that actually we might trigger a short with a nice risk-reward ratio. Thank you, guys.